Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to do a bit of a guide on fighting hard. Now this is a quite straightforward topic. I think most people kind of know what to do here, but there's a difference between knowing what to do and how to actually take full advantage of it, and that's really what I want to talk through today. So what I'm going to do is I will go through every single skill that you unlock in exclusive fighting hard to talk about which characters can actually really take advantage of them and how to actually use them effectively, I guess. And then towards the end, I'll kind of give my view on which fighting hard that you should be leveling up. I mean, most of the time you want to level up the one you have your main team in, but there are a few quirks that you have to bear in mind as well. Alright, so I'm going to start off just going through all of the fighting hard one by one, I guess. Starting off with the attackers. The first skill is quite interesting. Basically, what it says is after performing a super combo, the fighter also gains increased combo damage for 7 seconds. Now, as you go up the level, it's always going to be 7 seconds. And what's really interesting about this is that if you think about it carefully, this is only increasing combo damage. This is not increasing your attack or other kind of normal attack damage. So that actually means unless you are able to use your combo straight away in the next 7 seconds, then you won't be able to actually take advantage of it. And normally, unless you are starting off the combo, in which case you can also use that character for combo 2 or combo 3. Otherwise, let's say if I have my attacker using combo 1, there's no way he can use combo 2 or combo 3 in that chain. And normally, the time duration or interval between your combo chains is going to be more than 7 seconds. So actually, this skill will be effectively useless unless you are able to use your attacker to do both a combo starter and also combo 2 or combo 3. So that's kind of the main thing you have to bear in mind here is that if you do have attackers in your team as kind of your main DPS, always start off the combo chain with their attack. Do not start off the combo chain with another character because otherwise you're just wasting this entire skill for his exclusive fighting part. So definitely do not do that. Then later on, what you see is something like 1 HP drop below 30% for the first time. He gets a shield. So this is quite nice. This is kind of the more defensive mechanics. It works really well with Mad Ryu because Mad Ryu is normally on low HP and you want him to be sustaining at that low HP for increased damage output. Like his combo 3, I believe, basically ignores defense when he's below certain HP threshold. So this is going to work really well with him. He's putting up a shield rather than actually giving him extra HP to bring him back up to that, kind of like killing range, I guess. So this is going to work really well for Matt Ryu. Then finally, the last one is again 10% damage bonus for 5 seconds after triggering crit. Once again, this is kind of similar kind of topic. 5 seconds is a really short amount of time. Now, if you are actually doing normal attacks, then it doesn't really matter too much. However, imagine if you're actually getting a crit in your combo chain. What's going to happen in the next 5 seconds? If you are not following up your combo with the same attacker, then you are once again wasting this because what happens is, let's say I start off my attack with Mad Ryu, but then my next 3 combos in that sequence are all done by other characters. Then after 5 seconds, my Mad Ryu is done absolutely nothing in those 5 seconds because everyone else is attacking, and therefore I wasted this skill again. So once again, very similar to the first skill, if you have an attacker in your team as your DPS, please remember to start off the combo chain with him and also use a later on subsequent combo 2 or combo 3 in the same chain to really take advantage of those additional damage effects. So that's the main thing for attackers. Now for support characters, the first one is really nice. I think this is probably one of the nicest base level skill, which is basically when an active skill is used, then you are able to heal the ally with the lowest HP. This has a trigger interval, but what you can essentially do with this is that sometimes maybe you don't want to heal too much with your Elena, let's say. Elena has a combo 1 which is actively healing. Maybe sometimes you actually want a bit more attacking damage output, but at the same time you still want your HP to be quite healthy. So what you can do is actually simply use Elena to do a different attack, such as combo starter or combo 2, which also buff up your team without the active healing. However, this is going to still trigger and heal up your HP for the lowest character. So this way you are able to both buff up your whole team as well as kind of get healing your team up as well. So this is actually really nice. So bear that in mind when you're in battle. You do not always have to use Elena's combo 1 if you have this active. So just bear that in mind. Then into the next level, we have when taking damage, reduce the attacker's damage bonus by 12%. This to me is a quite rubbish skill because first of all, that it reduces the attacker's damage bonus. So that first of all requires that attacker actually have a damage bonus. And normally damage bonus may only be like 20 or 30% extra, and you're only then reducing by extra 12% of that. And it's only for 5 seconds as well. So honestly, I think this is a pretty rubbish skill, so you can probably just ignore this. Then at the last level, fills the super combo gauge by 150 when the fighter gets knocked out. This is a bit situational. I am not too sure on how effective this is. On one hand, if your support character, most of the time it's going to be your healer like Elena. If she gets knocked out, then that basically means your whole team have no sustain. So I'm not sure whether that super combo gauge can actually help much. But at the same time, this does give you a potential way to overturn a downside in your battle. Like if normally what happens is in this game, if you manage to knock out one fighter, you gain a massive upper hand and massive advantage, and normally that has like a snowball effect where you can then knock out the next fighter one by one, etc. This potentially gives you a way out in the sense that even if the enemy is kind of just piling in on you with lots of damage, this can potentially be used to overturn the battle. So it's a bit debatable how this will actually turn out in real life. So I think this is more of a situational skill. Next we have for the assassins. The first skill is also very nice. When dealing damage to target below 50% HP, additionally deal damage equal to 40% of attack. So this is almost like that execution effect that DiCaprio had. So this is quite nice. You probably seen in a lot of battles how deadly DiCaprio can be. So having this built-in execution effect for all of your fighters is actually really nice. Then moving on to the next one, dance of knife tips. This increased dodge by 15%. So this is almost like the equivalent of the fighter's one, whereas the fighter gains a shield, your assassin gains dodge. I think dodge versus shield, they both have their good and bad. I think dodge is normally a bit more useful in situations where the enemy is gonna do massive amount of damage to you. So for example, let's say in story maps in PvE, when you're facing up against enemies who are so much higher level than you, preferably you want to dodge the attack because that one hit can probably break your shield. However, if it's in PvP scenario, generally you want shield over dodge, just so that you have less RNG kind of effect building and you're more certain of when you're able to gain a win in PvP. So they have both up and down, but still it's a good skill. And then at the last level, I think this is probably the best skill out of all the exclusive fighting heart. And this is basically saying when an enemy is knocked out, the fighter gains 10% crit rate and 20 speed for 6 seconds. Now it doesn't look very strong on the first look because it only activates when the enemy is knocked out. And if you think a normal battle is 4 versus 4, so the most it can activate is only 3 times. However, the reason why I say this is very, very good is because there is no cooldown. As you can see, there's no trigger interval here. So the buff is only for 6 seconds, but there's no trigger interval, which basically means you can power this on loads and loads of times. And then what happens is that when you are in what's it called, Guild Shadowland, so kind of in those boss battle when you face a whole wave of different enemies all the time, what you can see is that those enemies are normally quite weak, and that's why you're able to beat through lots of different waves. As soon as you are able to kill off one of those enemies, you are then able to immediately gain crit and speed, and then that'll bring you up almost like perfectly to be able to attack again, and then you knock out another enemy, and then you gain crit and speed again, and there's no cap on this. You can keep on piling this on, and because with that extra lots of times you're able to do this, you can potentially get up to 100% crit rate, and you're just literally going to kill off everyone. And with that increased crit rate, you are going to ensure you're able to knock out the enemy, and therefore you're self-sustaining your buff as well. So I actually think this is going to be super deadly in Guild Shadowland. So this is not something I'm going to level up now because it's only unlocked at level 25, but I think eventually in long term this is definitely the best skill for you to get. Alright, so next we have the balanced characters. So balanced characters, at the base level, what you have is when dealing damage, reduce the target's damage reduction by 8%. Similar to one of the other skill I mentioned before, I'm not a great fan of this because first of all, it requires the target to have damage reduction, and normally damage reduction is only going to be like 20 or 30% anyway, and you're only ignoring an extra 8% of that. So it's just going to be a tiny amount, so this is not a very good skill in my opinion. Then the next one you have when losing 35% of HP, cumulatively increased lifesteal rate. I'm not a great fan of this either because it kind of requires you to actually attack, and depending on what you're actually using the balanced fighter for, it's not going to be your main DPS, so a lot of time you actually won't be using him too much for the damage dealing. So I'm not actually too sure how good is this lifesteal is actually going to be. The only characters who I think this is going to be really good on is going to be characters who are able to counter attack. So out of all the balanced ones here, I can see if you have Maya Cody or if you have Blanca, they will be really good with this because what happens is they will be able to counter attack and therefore still passively restore health this way through the increased lifesteal. So I think that's probably only going to be the case where I think this is useful. And once again, because this is only for 6 seconds, so similar to all of the attacker skills I mentioned before, unless you're actually able to take advantage of this by using this balanced fighter to execute 2 combos in the same chain, otherwise this is a bit wasted as well. So yeah, overall I'm not a great fan of this. I think it only works on Blanca and Maya Cody. And then at the highest level is after internet battle, the first active skill grants the fighter a % damage bonus and damage reduction. I'm not too great fan of that damage bonus one. Once again, I don't think they are going to be your main DPS anyway, so I don't really care about damage bonus. You won't be using it much. Damage reduction can potentially be useful depending on whether you actually want this person to survive a bit longer. I think if you don't actually have a proper tank and you actually use one of your balanced fighter as your tank, so that's a Blanca, you put Blanca up front or Maya Cody up front, then I think this skill is worth getting, but otherwise I think this skill is a bit of a meh as well. I don't think it's too nice. And then lastly, we have tanks. All of the tank skills I think are really useful. The first one, when the HP first drop, you restore 9% of max HP. But this on E Honda is going to be deadly. Like E Honda, so a lot of times really annoying to kill in maps because he gets into this immunity trigger interval. So as soon as he's below that, he gets immunity, and then if you have a way of restoring HP again to bring him back up to the immunity threshold, and if you don't do enough damage in that short amount of time, the next time you hit him, he's going to be below the threshold again and activate immunity again, and just going to be impossible to kill. So I think this is actually a really nice skill for E Honda. Then the next one we have Blood Echo, which basically says when you receive damage, you are going to reflect damage back. Once again, this works really well with all tanks really. A lot of them have really high HP, so if you have a way of kind of dealing damage back, even though you're not doing anything, this is a very good skill. And then the last level is when losing 30% of HP, then you increase parry rate. So that's just exactly what I said. Not too much to talk about there. But yeah, so this is basically a quick round of all of the different fighting hearts, their skills, which ones I actually think is really useful. Now, in terms of how you actually want to level them up, so one advice I give is that you want to min-max this, and what I mean is that you only pick 2 or maximum 3 fighting heart and put all of your resources there. Now, what you can see here is that your exclusive fighting heart is normally blocked by your general fighting heart. So unless you have lots of awakenings, otherwise you are unlikely to get them really high. So even though I have loads of resources still left, if you can take a look, I'm not going to waste them in the 3 here, which are still at level 1, because I know I want to really focus on attackers and support right now. And that's kind of what I suggest everyone to do, is take a look at your lineup, see exactly where you actually need it, and then therefore focus the most on. If I have to pick out of all of this, I would suggest picking 2 or 3 out of attack, support, and assassin. I think those 3 are the ones you definitely want to focus on. If you can get away with just using 2 of them, then that's great. If you do need to use all 3, then just spread it out across all 3. But the reason why I say this is, ideally, I don't think you should use tank, even though the tank skills are really good. The problem is you have M Bison. M Bison by himself is able to tank better than any other tank. It's ridiculous, and he's an attacker, so he doesn't even need that tanking ability. So I really don't suggest you actually leveling up the tank one, because I honestly think the best tank in the game is actually M Bison, and therefore, if you do have M Bison, you don't want to put another tank in your team either, because the way M Bison works is that he won't die unless unless all of your whole team is wiped out. If you put another protector up front, then what that means is actually M Bison is going to stand in the middle. So first of all, he's not going to be able to use his passive as often. And second of all, you are giving the enemy a way of knocking out one of your characters really quickly. And then if they kill off your protector, or your tank here, then what actually happens is now there's only one other character they need to kill before they are able to move on to M Bison. Whereas if you actually have M Bison up front, it's a lot harder for your enemies to kill both of the 2 back rows. And that's why I just think like tank is just really awkward, even though their skills are really nice. It's just going to be really awkward when there's M Bison on the field. Balanced fighters, I also don't think it's very good. Like I said, none of the skills here really shine out to me, except for Blood Blade, which is the one that kind of increased lifesteal, and this is only useful when you're doing counter-attacking units like Maya Cody or Blanca. So overall, I think all of the skills here are pretty weak. And if you look at all of the characters, the best one here are probably going to be Blanca, Ken, and also Beat Zangief, obviously. However, if you actually think about that, if you have Blanca, then I think, okay, fine, you can level this out, especially if you want to use him as a semi-tank. Even though, even in that case, because you have M Bison up front, I don't think Blanca is the best choice here either. So it's still a bit debatable here. But if you look at Ken, what Ken is doing, Monster Hunter Ken, what he needs to do is dish out loads of different attacks, and a lot of time you actually put him in tag position, so he just randomly come out and follow up on all of your combos. He's not actually going to suffer too much damage, so therefore he doesn't actually need the lifesteal that much. And Beat Zangief, similar kind of thing. The main reason why anyone use Beat Zangief is for his combo 2 interruption skill. So if that's the case, you don't really care too much about lifesteal. A lot of time you actually want to put Beat Zangief in your tag position as well, just randomly come out for that interruption effect. But vast majority of the time, you are not actually relying on Beat Zangief to do lots of damage and then therefore recovering lots of HP back. So even though Beat Zangief is almost like a must-have character, I don't think the Fighting Heart is going to do any benefit to him. So I would suggest skipping all of the balanced ones altogether as well. And that kind of just leaves you with Assassin, support, and attack. I think support have the best skills, the most useful skill at base level, so the one that you're able to unlock straight away. So I definitely recommend everyone to really use that now. I think Assassin really shines once you have able to get all the way up to level 25. So I will actually suggest, maybe for the time being, unless your main DPS is Assassin, otherwise I would suggest you just go down kind of the attack and also support route, and then eventually once you're able to hit level 25, then switch off the attack into assassins, because I do think a lot of the attack they kind of scale off towards the end as well, because like I said, in PvP it's always going to be similar. However, in story maps, your attacking characters are probably going to carry less weight in the future, because ideally you want to dodge a massive one-hit KO rather than just trying to do a shield. So yeah, so that's kind of my view on the Fighting Heart and how you should really optimize your resources to get the most out of them.